Welcome to Ira's Everything Bagel, where I talk with intriguing people about everything, their passions, pursuits, and points of view. My guest today is legendary comedian Shecky Greene. We recently had a conversation in his home in Las Vegas. And in this segment, Shecky, who is 97, talks about working in the Borscht Belt and why it gave him the freedom to perform. The Kugel difference in comedy, when he knew he hit it big, and so much more. Here's Shecky.
I worked at the Borscht Belt.
Did you enjoy working there?
Yes. Yeah, I really did.
What was so unique about that element, that venue for comedians?
The element that I felt free, and I wasn't, we didn't have that much Jewish at home, but it gave me the freedom to be that. If I wanted to do something, that what the audience would be familiar with, like a kugel, you say to the people. And my mother made a kugel. Well, you tell a Gentile audience, a kugel, two guys are waiting in your dressing room with a gun and a frying pan. First they'll make the kugel, then it's terrible, they'll kill you. But there was something up there, and those people were very good. Everybody thought I was from New York. There's not one New Yorker that didn't think I was from New York.
Just because of the association with the Catskills?
Yeah, the Catskills. Yeah. Everybody thought I came from there.
When did you know you hit it big? Was it in Las Vegas or Florida or Chicago? When you realized yourself you had hit it big?
I worked a place called the Shapery. I didn't have any right to work the Shapery in Chicago. With big stars. And Southern. Frankie Lane. I was so good, he quit. We worked the Shapery.
But he was a singer, though, Shecky.
He was a singer.
Right, but you were a comedian, so why would he quit if you were good?
No. He didn't quit.
Oh.
We drew 12 people. He left. He left me with 12. Now, out of the 12, 6 left.
Wow.
No.
So that was it, though, that in Chicago, that's when you knew you first started to make it big.
No. Chicago, and then at the Copacabana, that was New York, and I bombed very bad.
But when did you know that you made it big, that you were really solid?
When I got, let's see, how much did I get? A tremendous salary.
But that salary is based on the fact that you were attracting people, so that clearly made you...
Oh, but by that time I started making movies, a couple of movies, and I was a headliner here in Vegas. I was drinking in those days, and they'd have my name on the marquee. You'd drive down a strip, and you'd be so proud. Appearing tonight, Shecky Greene on the marquee. And then the next day after me getting drunk, it was appearing tonight, 479623. That was my police number.
Yeah, you had a somewhat interesting reputation during those years with...
and then the funny thing, it
drinking.
Followed me. The cops were always after me. There's a wonderful story about me saving 2 hotels. I made the Tropicana. They were closed. They didn't know what to do. I opened up a little lounge, and that took off. And then that started to get hot around Las Vegas. Then I went back to the Riviera. Then they gave me points. At the Tropicana, I got 5 points, which I never got. I got a card that I had to sign for. They rented a car for me. From 5% of the hotel to a rented car.
It went from that to that?
From that to that.
Oh, my.
And there was a guy sitting next to me all the time. It was a guy from the rental agency. They wouldn't trust me driving alone. Then I went back to the Riviera. They gave me 2 points there. And the guy, I said, what do I do with this? He said, put it with the 5 points that you didn't get at the Tropicana. And that guy that used to drive with it, he's coming with you.
But despite the drinking and the other behavior, such as gambling, but despite that, you still performed over all those years. So you clearly had some sort of, I don't know if it's willpower or discipline, or whatever you want to call it, that allowed you to, despite everything else, go up on stage and perform.
Well, yeah, because that was my job. But I didn't drink when I went to work. People used to think that I worked drunk. I never worked drunk. Then I was not a drinker. Jewish people don't drink. That's what we say. Because Jews never sat at a bar. Jews would never come and go and sit at a bar with people and drink. We would drink it maybe at a party or the house or something like that. But later on in this town, I started to go out, and that was the trouble with me. And every young guy that I got after that, I trained to not drink.
Excellent.
Forget about this thing. And I had to have it drink over 50 years.
It's amazing.
And I miss it. And I want to tell you, I'd rather have my numbers up than my name. But see, that you have to make a whole routine out
You
of it.
could. Well, you would, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you can even, I thought about this before coming to see you today. I was trying to think of who, any other comedian that I'm aware of that I could compare you in some way to, but I really can't because you're so unique. So from your point of view, who would be your favorite comedian and why would they be your favorite comedian, living or dead? Either way.
Well, I do what a lot of people have done in show business. It's just, there's a lot of people that do impressions, which I did, like...
Well, it's not just impressions, though. You're doing you're doing impressions, storytelling. There's a certain way you go about it that's unique, which is why you were going from $10 to $1,000 because of what you did. That's what I'm saying. So from that perspective, if you look at other comedians over the years, who would you consider your favorite comedian?
Geez, I don't know. Right now, that really is tough because there's so many guys that I think had the same thing. I had the Jewish experience. Let me tell you, there's when you are Irish, you have that Irish feeling and everything. I had the Jewish feeling, and the funny thing about that's the kind of people we were getting in Las Vegas. We were getting the New Yorkers, getting the Chicagoans, and they were no longer wearing boots and riding horses and stuff like that. But it was.
But you were also getting the Catskill crowd at that point in Las Vegas too, right?
You're getting the New York crowd,
and even L.A. people were coming up to see you.
But we had, I was here so long. I changed with the town. In other words, we were a very small town. Our big room sat 250 people. That was a crowd. Buddy Hackett used to call me and say, "Hey, Chuck, I just want to say something. You had in your audience today, you had 237 people. You had about 7 more than me." But it was, and everybody knew everybody. I mean, I opened the store, I don't recognize anybody.
I know you didn't recognize me, but I still came in.
Yeah. Well, it's that hat you're wearing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a skull cap.
Exactly.
I think that you're a printer.
It could be.
But I'm going to tell you something. This town, this is a terrible thing for me to say, because the town has been so good to me. But I really don't like the town anymore. I think the town is too crowded. It's so many different things today.
But Las Vegas has been good to you, and you've left occasionally and come back. I know you were at Palm Desert for a while for several years, and then you came back again, right?
You mean lived in Palm Springs?
I mean, Palm Springs, I take it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I came back, not that I was in show business anymore, but the South Point opened, and he was a very good friend of mine, Mike.
Michael Gahn.
And he said, Shecky's available, bring him in. Well, I went back to work there. The first show he saw, I don't know whether he liked it or not, because he got up in the middle and left. And I said, wait a minute, this is so bad, I'll go with you. But it's a town, I mean, I grew up in a town. I really actually, my career and my life, I grew up in this town. I knew all the people that had the money, that got the money. Like, I had the ability to buy property, to become one of the mavens of this town.
You didn't take advantage, did you?
I was with a guy, Harvey Silbert, who he was the lawyer of the Riviera and one of the owners. And I was with him. And if I stayed doing what he did, I would have been one of the owners.
But the bottom line is you did what you enjoyed.
That's funny. That's the word. I didn't enjoy it.
You didn't enjoy it? Okay.
Yeah. I never really enjoyed it. I love the recognition of people knowing my name and coming up to me, but I never really wholeheartedly say, this is what I want to do, and I want to get up on it, and I want to be, listen to me, folks, I want to sing a song, I want to do a dance all day long, I want to tell you, and then there's Sammy Davis, maybe I'm right, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, and maybe I'm wrong.
Well, let's go back to that for a second. You initially
I do Sammy Davis.
I
as
recognized
a Jew.
it. Yes.
Oh, yeah, go
well,
ahead.
he was. And I was always under the impression you had a passion for performing. But what you're saying to me now is, well, you enjoyed the recognition, but you didn't necessarily have the passion for it.
I enjoyed getting laughter. I enjoyed being in the center of a crowd.
Center of attention.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Right.
But that ended, boom, boom, boom,
So then you have to make peace with yourself.
Yeah, but then you go home and your mother says to you, fix your bed, Could you give me a laugh, Ma? She had a good sense of humor.
I want to end it on a very optimistic question. Your favorite Las Vegas experience?
Ira, I'm going to tell you a story you probably don't know, and many people will not know the story unless I write a book. I was in my apartment at my hotel, and the police came and knocked down a door. And they went to arrest me, and they said, what'd you do to that lady? And I said, what lady is that? Now, I had a girl with me in the other room. I was single at that time. I was going with a French girl from the Tropicana. And she was in the other room. And I said, what are you talking about? Last night you did. I said, I didn't do anything last night. There was a lady that came off a plane. She was in a comatose state. She was out of it completely. She was dressed as a nun. And there was a letter that said, I am in ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, bum, bum. And the only voice that can get me out of this is Shecky Green. I never told you this story.
Never? No. First I'm hearing it.
So the guy went to put cuffs on me. What are you doing? Well, you did this to this woman. I didn't do anything to anyone. They showed me a picture. The lady is in a downtown hotel, Las Vegas spelled backwards. And I says, well, you can't just arrest me and boom, 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 boom. They took me to Southern Memorial Hospital. I saw the woman. Woman was out of it. And a couple of days, the doctor thought I did it, a psychiatrist. All the help at the hotel. So that's one of the great stories, because I could have been in jail the rest of my life. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, and then the girl I was with, Regine, really let him have it. She says, "We were together." Boom, boom. So one cop then started to believe that I didn't do it. So I tried to work with the woman. Next day I went down. They were taking her to Sparks, Nevada, which is the insane asylum. And they thought I did it. And so anyway, I started working with the woman. I came back the next day. They were taking her away to the hospital. I said, "What are you going to do with me? They haven't figured out yet." I said, "Let me talk to her." I grabbed her. I said, "Do you know Shecky Green?" "Yeah." First time she talked. "Do you love Shecky Green?" Look at me. She says, "Yes." "You want to kiss Shecky Green?" I kissed her. And I stopped them from doing what they did with the woman.
So after you kissed her, what happened?
I found she had a sister in Albuquerque. I called a sister. They found her car in Idaho or someplace.
One of the eyes, yeah.
She was and that was the end of that for me. Till this day, I don't know. Nobody ever got in touch with me,
Right. Well, you're still here, so clearly everything worked out.
Yeah, it worked out, but they always thought the Peck's bad boy, go get the Jew, So then I says, "They don't mean me, the guy with the hat, the rabbi. That's what I want you to get."
Before I let you go, what's the best thing that has happened to you in your life? Soon to be 97.
Marrying my wife, Marie. And I'm not saying this because she's around. I don't even think she's around. I was lost. I was completely lost. I could get in. Things was wrong. That was wrong. This, and I couldn't get a good feeling. But she does everything. She cooks. She sews. Matter of fact, when she's not even a wife. She's my maid. But
I won't let her hear you say that.
Yeah.
No, that's great, though. I think that's a great way to end it.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
Yeah, when you're in trouble, get yourself a great wife. And if she cooks Italian, come to my house.
My guest has been legendary comedian Shecky Green. Shecky, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for asking me.
And join us every Thursday for a new schmear on Ira's Everything Bagel.